Hi, this is Ray Patrick, your favorite real estate agent down here in South Florida in the Palm Beaches. Today we're going to talk about the 7 myths of living in South Florida. Let's get after it. Be sure and hit the like and subscribe button because we're putting out new content every week and you don't want to miss out on that. Also, if you want to know what it's like to live, work, eat, sleep, and play in the Palm Beaches, this is the channel for you. If you're thinking about buying a single-family home, a beachfront condo, or maybe something on a golf course, 55 and older community, we've got your back. So you can reach out to us by phone, text, email. Heck, you can even send a message in a bottle because that works too. So let's get right to it. Right now, I'm going to give you the 7 myths about living in South Florida. Myth number 1 is the weather. Now, I was told as a small child, Florida is too hot, it's too buggy, and it's good for vacationing, but it's not good to live there. I mean, this was imprinted in my brain. And at age 55, I decided to move down to South Florida, and I did. Quite frankly, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, especially moving from Illinois. Now the weather down here, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, can get really hot. In the middle of summer, July, August, we'll get some days in the 90s. I mean, you can't walk on the sand without having something on your feet. You can't walk across the parking lot in bare feet. You'll burn your feet. So, what do you do on those hot days? Well, 1, you wear shoes, that helps. 2, you always have some water with you. You always wanna be close to some water. Or if it gets too hot, you want to be close to air conditioning. And also, you do things earlier in the day and later in the day when it starts to cool off. Because if you're out there in the direct sun, you're going to roast like a lobster. But we've always got sunscreen, we've got hats on, and you know what? The weather becomes quite pleasant. What happens is your body actually acclimates to the weather. To give you an example, remember when you're sitting there in the freezing cold up there in New York or Illinois or wherever you're at, Massachusetts, it doesn't matter. And you're sitting there and you're saying, wow, it's really cold out. It's 10 degrees, 15 degrees. Next thing you know, it's up to 35 degrees and you're like, wow, this is really hot. I'm sweating. You're about ready to turn your AC on in your car. And you're like, wait a minute, it's only 35 degrees. It's really not that warm out. But to you, it seems warm because you've been sitting in 10 to 15 degree temperatures for the whole winter. So that's what it's like. After a few weeks, or at least a month, you're used to it, and it's really not that hot to you. And what I find is people just don't move as fast, you slow things down, but you still get a lot done. You're just more efficient in your movement. As far as the bugs, yeah, there's bugs down here, but I live by the beach, and we have an ocean breeze all the time. I very rarely have any kind of mosquitoes. Right now, I got some goofy gnats running around. I don't know what they're from, but they're all over the place. But I'm sure in a week or so, they'll all be gone. We do have the no-see-ums on the beach. And if you go out there, especially after a rainstorm, those things will bite your legs. And the one thing about them, you can't see them. So you'll wake up in the morning and your legs are on fire. You got all these bites, you can't figure out where it is, and they itch for like a week. So what I do about that, I found this bug spray. That usually solves that problem. The next thing we have is roaches. Now, occasionally there's some roaches around, but every place that I know, they spray for them. So any roach I ever find in my condo, it's either dead or it's dying. So I don't really see a plethora of roaches running around in the condo, but they take care of it. They spray for them. They come every month and they spray for them, and it keeps everything under control. No roaches for me. The next thing is alligators. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be hanging out with a bunch of alligators. Now, I actually did do this up in Tampa, north of Tampa. I was up there paddleboarding with some friends, and I came closer than I want to get with alligators, and I actually fell into the river, and there were alligators probably 50 yards away. I would not recommend that. But for the most part down here in South Florida, you would have a hard time finding an alligator, even if you went out to the Everglades. They're hard to find. They're solitary animals. They really don't want to be around you. And alligators really just want to be left alone. As far as alligators wanting to, sneak out of the water and chew your leg off and steal your tiny little dog, that, for the most part, is not going to happen. One of the times you will see a lot of alligators is in the mating season. I think that's somewhere around June or July, and that's when they're out looking for the male alligators or looking for the female alligators. The other thing I hear all the time is there is no culture. There's no culture in South Florida. That couldn't be further from the truth. And I hear people say there's nothing to do. Both those statements are so untrue. As far as culture and things to do, we have incredible culture. We have kind of our own culture. But as far as things like the ballet and the opera, we have all of that down here. We have plays, Broadway plays. We have everything that you have up north, we have it down here. A lot of this stuff was transplanted down here, but they have their own culture down here. We have Dreyfus Hall, we have the Kravitz Center, and then we have the, I think, amphitheater. So we have everything from small venues to some of the biggest bands in the entertainment industry. It's all here in South Florida, and the great thing about it, it's all close by. Now, I know when I was in Illinois, you had to drive a long way, pay exorbitant prices for parking, all this crazy stuff. Down here, it's really simple to get to, and it's all within minutes. As far as sports activities, we have it all here. I mean, what state we have 3 NFL football teams. We have the Jaguars, we have the Buccaneers, and we have the Dolphins. We have 2 baseball teams, the Rays and the Marlins,
along with minor league teams and a whole bunch of spring training. And then we have 2 basketball teams, the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic, and then 2 hockey teams, the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And if that's not enough, the college sports, the collegiate level, are off the charts here with football, basketball, baseball, both men's and women's sports.
The next thing I have is the Florida Man. The Florida Man. The Florida Man. The Florida Man. So the Florida Man, I've been trying to find the Florida Man forever, and I cannot find the Florida Man. I've looked all over. Everywhere I look, I cannot find the Florida Man. I know he's on the news, but I've searched all up and down the beach, in and out of all the different cities around here, and I can't find the Florida Man. One of the other things I hear is there's not any good food or restaurants down here. There is a plethora of good food and restaurants. In fact, we have some of the best seafood you're going to find. But we also have all the high-end steakhouses, like Ruth Chris Steakhouses down here. All of them are down here. All of the big guys are down here. Or if you want to just stop and get some sushi, they sell it everywhere. I mean, they have some of the best cuisine down here. I just went and ate at an Indian place down in Boynton last night. And it was just in a strip center. It was very good food. So there's restaurants all over. The cool thing is they didn't close them all down and lock them all down like they did in the northern states. So they actually stayed open. All these good restaurants, they're still here. They weren't put out of business by all the lockdowns. They actually were thriving. And you're going to see people opened up new restaurants. It's a thriving restaurant community. As far as food, grocery, we have it all down here. Anything you want, any type of fresh food you want to buy. Matter of fact, a large quantity of all the fresh vegetables in the U.S. is grown in Florida. And Florida is one of the biggest beef producers as well. I also hear that Florida is too expensive, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Florida, you can live here, you can live large here inexpensively. I mean, you can find 55 and olders, you can get into a 55 and older for $100,000 still. And I'm talking with, they'll have some HOA fees, but really you're living there for really next to nothing for the year. And they're still affordable single-family homes. You just have to know where to look. And if you want beachfront condos, we've got plenty of them. And anything in the Gulf communities, and we've got all kinds of those properties as well. So low end to high, Florida's got you covered. The good thing about Florida, yes, there's a lot of people moving down here, but there's also a lot of people always moving out. So there's always room for everyone. So whether your budget's $100,000 or it's $10 million, it doesn't matter. There's a property for you. The other thing I get is there's too many people down here. Now, yes, Florida is a vacation community, so there are a lot of people on vacation down here about half of the year, or they're snowbirds. as I would say. They're not vacationing, but they're snowbirds. They stay here half the year, but they're actually really good for the economy. Without the snowbirds, people with their second homes, Florida's economy would not be much. And also without the tourist industry, Florida would not be much. But because of that, Florida is a thriving state. We're like a little country down here. So yes, there are a lot of people. A lot of people say, well, there's a lot of mean people. There's a lot of this people, that people. You know what? This is like a big melting pot. People seem to get along. I don't see the division on the political lines. I don't see any of that. I don't even care about any of that. There's just people, and people seem to get along. I don't know if it's because, you know, this tropical paradise. I don't know what it is. But you don't see people raging all the time. You don't see it. It's just more laid back. Now, we're putting out new content every week, and you don't want to miss out on that. So be sure and hit the like and subscribe button. Now, if you don't like us, hit the thumbs down button twice. Now, if you're thinking of moving down here, relocating, or you just want to know what's going on down here in the real estate market, reach out to us. We got you covered. We've got boots on the ground, and we know how to find the right property for you and your family.